And when I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous.
And if we're talking tight ends and we're going into round 2, maybe round 3, give me Ian Thomas, please. Let's just do the damn thing.
Just based on giving his overall ability. Again, I like his arm. I think he can make every throw.
The pick at number 12 is in.
Yes, so we're back, Cover One, the Draft Podcast. I'm Russell Brown. With me, as always, on a Thursday night, hopefully with a cold beer in hand. I got one. But CP Christian Page with me, my man. How we doing?
Man, I don't have one, so
No.
I'm not doing as well as you are. But always good to be talking ball.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We are a week away from the 2020 NFL Draft. It's been a great, month of the show. The last 2 weeks specifically, we've been doing a great job giving some team needs. We're going to break away from that. If you're not caught up, you're going to come across some great interviews with players like Marcus Bailey from Purdue, Joe Bacci from Michigan State, Dan Schneier of CBS Sports talking Giants with me, Joe Goodberry talking Bengals as well. A lot of fun stuff coming down the pipeline over the next week as well. We will be dropping our big boards and player rankings within the next couple of days, as well as the final mock draft. I'm hoping to have myself another scouting report in on Charles from LSU. So through the madness, I'll try to fit that in there somewhere. But today we're going to do the show a little bit different, and it's going to be big board player ranking bingo. So basically, I will be sitting here. CP will be sitting where he's at in Alabama, and he'll say, hey, Russ, who's player 24 on your board? I'll talk about him. We can take the discussion a little bit further, then I'll go or whatever. And it doesn't really matter who goes first or second, but then I would say, hey, CP, who is, RB 11 on your board? Who's QB 9 or even QB 1? I don't think we really need to go into that stuff, but it will be fun if we do. So we will do all kinds of random stuff over, the next 15, 20, 25 minutes or so, just breaking this up a little bit, going into some certain players, and I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are as well. CP, do you want to go first? Do you want me to ask you first? How do you want to do this thing? You want to flip a coin? You got a quarter available?
Oh, I don't. I have a bottle cap. That works.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. You want the top part of the bottle cap, I guess?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, with the bottom part. So you ask me first.
All right. I'm going to ask you first. So
that was so unplanned, but I love it.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of the show.
It was a water bottle top too. It wasn't even a beer cap.
Well, my question is how are they in the draft? How are they going to if they lag on time, how are they going to settle that? Are they going to have to do the same thing and basically say, hey, flip the bottle cap, your pick is in, or no, we'll give you an extra 5 minutes? I don't know. But anyways, let's start with the offensive line. That's your sweet spot. Let's go with your offensive tackle, number 8.
Number 8, I got Lucas Niang from TCU. I like a lot of his ability. His technique's pretty clean. I know there's some parts where he loses his anchor just a little bit, but I like his footwork. I think he's pretty good as far as anticipation goes. You're never going to see him really over-pursue or be too patient. His anchor's not elite like the other, 7 guys ahead of him, or at least those top 4 guys that are rumored to go in the top 15. But overall, he's pretty clean technically. I think we talked about – it's probably been over a month. He's not the sexy film guy that you're going to see blowing guys up like a Becton or a Wills or maybe some other guys, the athleticism of Josh Jones from Houston. But Niang, he's pretty calm, cool, and collected at all kind of pass rushers. He doesn't get that overwhelmed. I know there's some pass reps when he's playing on the right side and maybe his right shoulder. Somebody comes up there and he kind of overextends or maybe doesn't get his hands in the appropriate place, so he'll have to play recovery there for a little bit. But overall, I think he's a pretty clean prospect if he can get some of those injury concerns cleaned up. But I like Lucas Niang to kind of be one of those maybe round 2 guys, maybe top 100 picks that kind of have a maybe 8-year career and have never maybe going to scratch the surface of an all-pro player, but still just be a consistent guy that always finds his way on a ball club.
Yeah, I don't know if I should go further on to what I think of him, but because you might say what number he is on my board, so I might have to talk about him myself.
That would be something.
Yeah,
how many guys you got on your board right now?
Well, I have 150 graded, so I have, my spreadsheet up with every grade, but as far as like the big board that I'm putting together with the presentation, I have 98 up there. So I'm well over half.
Pinpoint Lucas Niang on your board. I'm hitting stop and I'm done. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Incredible accuracy if that's the case. Yes, though. I could probably get a range.
Okay. Well, hey, shoot your shot, pal.
All right, we'll go with let's go. We got top 25 usually in college football. So let's go number 26 player on your big board.
Okay. Number 26 is my top ranked safety in this class, and that is Antoine Winfield Jr. out of Minnesota.
Love it.
My board's always a little bit different than the consensus every year. I view players a little bit differently. I love Antoine Winfield Jr. Watched a lot of Big Ten football, and there's nothing against the guys in the SEC like Xavier McKinney and Grant Delpit, but I love Winfield. Little undersized at 5'9", 203, but he had 83 tackles this past year, 7 interceptions, great ball skills. Obviously has an NFL background. His father's Antoine Winfield, so he's got a high football IQ. Again, terrific ball skills. I love that he kind of has this seek and destroy mentality on his way to the football. Not always a great tackler, but again, with the ball skills, that's kind of what I'm talking about. He's always going after that ball. I think he's, a solid form tackler, but I think there's areas where he rises his pad level a little bit. And I think just out of the safeties in this class with his range, I think it really is what has separated him. So at 26, I think he could be a first rounder. I think he could be the first safety off the board, to be quite honest, just because of the tracking ability, the ball skills. He should have an easy transition to the next level. Just he's been prepared for this for a long time. I think that's why he's going pro now. Obviously, injuries could play a part of that as well, but I love Antoine Winfield Jr. He got a draft grade of 84, which is a very good grade on my board. He's, top ranked safety as well. So 26 is where he's at. So I love me some Antoine Winfield Jr. Let's go with your edge rusher 6.
That would be – this might come as a little surprise, but edge rusher number 6 is Terrell Lewis out of Alabama. I know you talk about Antoine Winfield having injury issues. Terrell Lewis has a lot of them.
Yes.
But I think just his natural ability to peel off the edge, to get skinny in the interior, to just really pursue the pocket is – if he doesn't have that injury baggage, then you're probably looking at a top 20 player. In my opinion, because his film when he's on the field is pretty solid. I know he has kind of a leaner frame, but that upper body, he shows a lot of strength. He has a lot of length to get off the stack and shed. So I just like his ability. Maybe he could be scheme dependent in a certain situation. I don't think he's really going to consistently put his hand in the dirt, so he's going to look more on the ball, be at the line of scrimmage, maybe play the flats a little bit in coverage. But I think you just get him to pin his ears back and rush the quarterback on passing downs. I think you're going to get a really good player in Terrell Lewis, hoping that his injury history is cleaned up at the next level. I have no idea where his projection is going to be. I think he's, a day 2 talent. But as far as injury baggage, he may be one of the first selections in day 3. But overall, I think he has the film, even though it is very minimal, he has the film that could definitely accentuate one of the more cleaner and more fascinating edge rushers in this class.
The injuries is what hurt him on my board, but I can understand the intrigue for sure. I think there's some refinement that needs to be done with the overall technique, but no, I like me some Terrell Lewis. I'm not as high on him just judging by overall position rank as you are, but it's close. So, yeah, you're up.
Yeah, so we'll go with, since there's 32 picks in the first round, even though this doesn't have anything, it doesn't have to correlate with how your first round prospects grade, but let's go with 33 on your board.
Okay, that's Ashton Davis, safety out
Oh.
of Cal. So we're going back-to-back safeties here, but he is my third-ranked safety. So Delpit's actually in there as well, right in the middle. So I really like this safety class. I'm no defensive back guru. I'll be the first to say that. It's probably my least favorite position group to watch, to be quite honest, because I would think I was born and raised in the trenches. But I like Ashton Davis quite a bit. Former track star, hurdling machine. I think he's got terrific range. The athletic ability is certainly there. I think he can play in a variety of spots as a single high safety. I think he could be even in a nickel role as well. He was a special teams MVP at Cal, so I think he's going to be a day one special teamer for you. But him at 33 overall, I think is great value. He's been hampered by a groin injury for most of this offseason, this draft season, which hurt him, not being able to do anything at the Senior Bowl, not doing anything at the Combine. But I think with, the instincts, the intelligence, he went to Cal, he's got to be smart, and just the overall ability that he possesses, I think he could be a day one starter for a team, but I'm more comfortable with him in the early going of day two, middle of day two, rather than in the first round or anything like that. And so 33, fine spot for him. Go ahead and give me your C. Let's go with this because there's been I think the consensus has Christian Fulton, C.J. Henderson, Jeff Okudah as 1, 2, 3 in the cornerback room. And I could be wrong. Maybe your board's a little different, but I want to know who your CB4 is. And if it's Christian Fulton, then just give me your CB3. But if it...
I love Christian Fulton. No, he's at number 2, and I'll give up the rest because you just listed them. Okudah's at 1, Fulton is at 2, C.J. Henderson's at 3, and then Jeff Gladney, the TCU cornerback, is at CB4. So we talked about him briefly because your mock draft last week believed to Minnesota. So he has that kind of physical advantage that he likes to play with, and I think he can play at all levels of the field. You can put him in a press man situation. You can play him a little bit off the ball. He has good ball awareness, in my opinion. I don't have his ball skills in front of me, but it seems like he checked the boxes at least in a fair way in that regard. So I don't know. I like Gladney a lot. I just like his competitive edge that he brings to the table as well. And I'm not buying this whole Big 12 cornerback thing. I mean, there's plenty in the league. I mean, did you know Aqib Talib and Chris Harris played at Kansas? And come on, Kansas was at the basement at that time. I know, yes, they were probably – that was the year that they were in the top 5 with Mark Mangino and all those good players. But come on now. I think that narrative needs to go away. But
yeah,
Gladney, I like him. He's a pretty polished player overall and played some good ball this year. So Gladney's my CB4.
He's actually, believe it or not, he is my – wait a minute. I might have mistyped something. He is my – he's my CB6.
Ooh.
So I still – like him quite a bit. That's got to be wrong. He's got to be my CB. Yeah, he's my CB5.
Okay.
Good. See, this is why we're doing this, so I can check things. I must.
Who is sandwiched in between at 4?
Jalen Johnson, Utah. Okay. So yeah, I must have fat fingered that. Good catch though. Oof, that was close. I like Gladney as well. The whole Big 12 thing that's a stupid narrative to push on anybody. I love his trail technique. I think he is very solid. I love the length. I like the ball skills. He's good. You're up.
Let's go a little deeper. We'll go with pick 60 or 60th overall.
60th is Van Jefferson, wide receiver, Florida. He is my wide receiver 11. I think he's easily one of the best route runners in this draft outside of probably Jerry Jeudy. I love the short area quickness, and that's really a key reason to why he is such a good route runner. It's superb. The footwork, it's so fast, it's efficient. I think from day one, regardless if he's 23, 24 years of age now, it does not matter to me. I think he's going to help in the short and intermediate areas of the field, and I think he can provide you some big play catchability after he gets the ball in his hands. You got to kind of wonder how high his upside is, but at 6'1", 200 pounds, for him to move that way, I think it's pretty important. I love the effectiveness that he has in the red zone, and I think he's going to draw a ton of flags. He did it at Florida. I think he's going to continue to do that at the next level. As we were talking pre-show, I had done a kind of a brief Steelers podcast yesterday with David Hall from 97.1 The Ticket here in Metro Detroit, and he's a Steelers fan. So we were talking about a receiver for the Steelers, and he had loved Donovan Peoples-Jones. And afterwards, I got thinking about it more, and I'm like, man, Van Jefferson to the Steelers would be, I think, a home run in that offense next to Juju, James Washington, with James Conner out of the backfield, and even Eric Ebron at tight end. So I love Van Jefferson to the Steelers if that can happen. He is 60th on the board, so we'll see. It would not surprise me if he went a little sooner, but at the same time, it wouldn't surprise me if he went a little later, because the NFL, in my opinion, is weird at the receiver position, a.k.a. DK Metcalf last year at 64. So with that, let's go to linebacker. Let's go to your LB. Let's go to LB5.
So LB5 is one of your favorites, I think. At least you've hyped him up a little bit. But Ohio State linebacker Malik Harrison.
Mm-hmm.
I like his ability to play in space. I think he has really good range. It's a little underrated in the sense, because I think some people aren't super impressed with maybe some of his lower body movement overall, but I think he's pretty good when he has to pick up guys out of the backfield. He has a decent amount of range. He's not going to have that sideline-to-sideline speed like a Patrick Queen or even a Jordan Brooks for that matter, but I don't know. I really bought into his film. It's not super clean, but I think there's a lot of tools to work with. I think his coverage and his range are fine, in my opinion. I'm not going to say he's a plug-and-play guy, but I think he shows the instincts and the intelligence to be put into a situation as a reserve linebacker and work his way into a starting role.
It's weird. We have the same LB5.
Wow.
That's crazy. It's like we're the same mind at times. No, I've always liked Malik Harrison since the summer and even parts of last year as well. He's got some long arms. He's aggressive as hell. I think you can find him in a versatile role, because I think he can play inside and outside as well. So I completely agree.
I agree. Yeah. Let's go with trying to pick up. Let's go with the unlucky 13.
Unlucky 13.
No pressure to whoever lands on the board here.
Tristan Dwarfs, offensive tackle, Iowa. So in my big board, it's 4 offensive tackles in the top 16. I love this offensive tackle class, especially at the top. I even love it a little bit afterwards as well. I mean, guys like you talked about already, Lucas Niang, but with Tristan Dwarfs, I mean, elite athlete, great overall strength. You see that on and off the field. I mean, the guy's, lifting 450 pounds with ease. He's got heavy hands. He wins with his strength. He's got, good hand placement overall. I think he tends to lean a little bit too far forward, but I think he can be scheme versatile, not reliant in that, but his athletic ability certainly allows him to operate smoothly in zone and even in power type of scheme. I like the smooth feet that he has. And just overall, I think he's a solid technician with a good anchor, and he certainly can finish. So at 6'5", 320, you could see him play right tackle. You could also see him play left tackle. He had 3 starts there in his career. I know there's some that believe he could play inside at guard, which is very well possible, kind of like a Brandon Sheriff. But I'm going to play him at right tackle. I'm going to give him, a roll of the dice and benefit of the doubt, and we could see him be the first offensive tackle off the board. I love the idea of him protecting Daniel Jones in New York. I think that's a ideal landing spot for him. So Wirfs for me at 13 overall is, I don't know if it's unlucky or if it's lucky, but I love me some Tristan Wirfs.
Yeah, I like that spot. And a lot of times, just to elaborate on Wirfs, you talked about potentially him moving inside. A lot of times I kind of scoff at the idea of a tackle maybe didn't meet the mark at the college level, or maybe isn't long enough to play the outside tackles, but push him inside. I'm like, okay, that's a little lazy. But with this regard, given his athletic profile and his ability to quickly unlock his hips and get to the second level and see him possibly peel on the outside of the tackle's shoulder, I could see how some of his athletic traits could be accentuated at the guard position. So I am open to the idea of, like you said, maybe like a former Hawkeye, Brandon Sheriff, played tackle, moved inside the guard. Maybe you could see a fit like that with Wirfs. But I think given where he's going to be drafted, even though Sheriff was drafted in the top 10, but given where Wirfs is probably going to be drafted and the team that's going to be picked, that will be picking him, it seems like he's probably going to have a home on the outside.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. Let's go running back, and we'll go there. We haven't talked that position yet. Let's go RB. Let's go. I'll give you. I don't know if this is technically an easy one. We'll go RB3.
RB3, I have DeAndre Swift out of Georgia, and this is the top 3 running backs are nearly impossible for me to grade. So it almost may be like, what am I thinking that night when I put in my final grades? And that's what they're going to be. I know that sounds very bad on my end as an evaluator, but I think you can make cases for 3, maybe in the top 4 guys being shuffled around as maybe RB1. But with DeAndre Swift, I really like the offense that he operated him from a running back perspective. You saw a lot of plays inside rushes. You saw his ability to catch the football this year. And you just see his overall athletic ability. He doesn't have superb vision like the other 2 guys I have ahead of him with Jonathan Taylor and J.K. Dobbins. That's no secret that those are the top 2 running backs in this class. But I think Swift could be work his way into a starting role. He has really good acceleration ability. He has ability to make things happen in open space, and I think he could be utilized as a 3-down back at the next level. So DeAndre Swift is my RB3 at the moment.
We got the same thing going here again. I mean, I don't know what.
I swear to the listeners, we have not looked at the one. Russ is fine tuning his right now, and I just completed mine. Like the ink is still fresh on this piece of paper, so
yeah,
we have not cheated whatsoever.
Now, and I will say this, our evaluation's certainly a little different. I was not the biggest of fans of Swift really through this entire process. I like him. Don't get me wrong. I think he's explosive with his jump cut, and he's got just like an accelerator almost. It's like he hits that cut and he just goes, and it's impressive. Now, I don't think he's technically got the track speed, long speed, but I mean, he still tested well. Don't get me wrong. But like you said, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he did become a 3-down back, but it also wouldn't surprise me if he was a complement. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see where he ultimately lands up. I know he's had 73 receptions in his career. So I think he can be a natural pass catcher, and maybe this is one of those where I like overthink it in a sense, like Alvin Kamara a few years back, and that's maybe who he ends up being like. I don't know, but I like Swift. Some people that say that he's, the first back off the board, I could see it, but I don't know. I don't see it. But
do you think a running back goes in round 1? Because I'm of the belief that does not happen.
I want to say yeah, because I'm such a your jaw will probably drop where you see Jonathan Taylor on my board. But
okay, well, give it to me. That'll be the next one. Keep going. Finish your thought, and then we'll go to him next.
Yeah, I mean, I think he could be the first back off the board, and I've said that for a long time. I mean, he's so complete with his contact balance, his ability to approach the line of scrimmage and have that jump cutting ability, so decisive. I love the vision. He's a big play threat, and he's got the for his size at almost 230 pounds, for him to run the way he does, it's impressive. So he's 21st overall on my board. And I know he's only got 20, he had 25 receptions this past year. He's not necessarily the, a Swift as far as receiving back goes. And in today's league, that's important. But again, 6.6 yards per play is what he averaged at Wisconsin in his career per carry. So I know the ball security is an issue, but with that vision, that contact balance, I don't want to say he's Saquon Barkley, because then he's going, second overall or whatever, or fourth overall, or whatever Saquon went, second, fourth, something like that. And either way, I think Taylor has the potential to be a first-round back. And if the reason why I say that is if Detroit gets picked 26, I think that's the guy they take. That's in my personal opinion. So I could be wrong. It could be a guy like J.K. Dobbins, who they recently met with. But either way, I like Taylor. I think he's got the workhorse mentality to be an every down back for an NFL franchise. There's some cleaning up to do, and maybe 21's a little rich for people. But if I'm drafting in that back end of the first round, the Chiefs, if the Lions get 26, even if the Dolphins have 26, I think it's a fit. So I think he's a fit in the first round.
Yeah, I agree. I'm thinking like maybe back in like the 2005 NFL draft, if you had guys like Taylor, Dobbins, Swift, and we can even go to the guys like Edwards-Helaire, I think all four of them get drafted in the first round. But just the way the league has changed, and whatever the argument has been about the running back, sure, the position itself has been devalued, even though you're seeing big contracts, like Christian McCaffrey. But just think about the involvement of that position. McCaffrey, I believe, was probably the leading receiver for the Panthers last year. 100 catches, 100 rushes, 1,000, all types of production. That's how the running back position is transformed. So, I mean, even though, these guys might be first-round talents, just because they're not picked in the first round should not put a black mark on their scouting report whatsoever.
Well, and on top of that, CMC just got $16 million. So, I mean, there's still some value to the position. Whether we agree if they're overpaying or not, there's still value to the position. And people are going to spend a premium for the position at times. And I think in this draft, somebody's going to pay a premium for their guy, whether that is Edwards-Helaire, J.K. Dobbins, Swift, or Taylor, or even a guy like Zach Moss. I think it'd be a little outrageous if he was the first back off the board. But I do love me some Zach Moss. So, let's go to the interior part of the offensive line. Now, do you have it separated like guards and center, or do you have it just interior offensive line as one whole?
They're all lumped together.
Okay, good. So let's go with because I know who your interior offensive line one is, and I think I know who your second one is. I'm going to go with your third one. Who is IOL 3?
That is John Simpson out of Clemson, who you probably thought I had at number 2, or maybe not. But John Simpson, I know it's a little unorthodox to put him this high, but I really like his placement, his hand placement a lot, and I think that's one of the key things I look for in an offensive lineman, because I think that sets the tone of your entire rep of that certain play. Because if you keep your hands square, that's naturally going to put your body in the right technique position, and it can still supplement maybe some of that lack of anchor, that lack of core strength that you may not carry. He has that, but just in a general sense, I like his hand technique overall. His feet can be a little choppy, especially moving laterally, but he still gets the job done, and he finishes with authority, and that's something I really like to see in my offensive lineman. So Simpson, he's not a squeaky clean prospect, but I think just given his size, given his quote-unquote production at Clemson, I think he checks a lot of boxes for me to come in as my interior offensive lineman number 3.
That is, to me, that's rich, but because this is a big difference. I love John Simpson from even when we watched him together in Mobile at the Airbnb to but I like people dog this interior offensive line class, and I see 3 starting centers from potentially day one: Matt Hennessy, Cesar Ruiz, Tyler Biadasz. I think all 3 could start from day one if you needed to. And then you've got probably 4 or 5 guards here. You've got Damian Lewis, and you got Cushenberry as well, another center. So, you basically, in my opinion, you've got 4 guards, 4 centers lumped into one, and then I've got Simpson as he's my 9th ranked player for the interior. But that's just simply because I agree with you. I think he's a plug and play. Everything you're saying, I agree. I have the grading. It's so close too. So don't listen to me, but. Yeah,
a lot of these interior offensive linemen, you do have to split hairs, not necessarily just given the position, but like you said, and a lot of these interior offensive linemen, a lot of it is projection based on what scheme they're going to be put into, because you're not going to see like Ben Bredesen out of Michigan, who I think his film is pretty solid. He has some athletic limitations. I think they are overblown just a little bit, but you want to see him operate more in just a man-on-man, hat-on-hat blocking scheme. You're not going to see him put into his own scheme. If some coach wants to transform him into that, they're not going to get his full potential. So that's why it's kind of hard to evaluate these interior offensive linemen, because you may see more of a zone scheme for John Simpson, but I think he has the physical strength and the smart or the intelligence to operate in a scheme flexible, a situation. So I don't know. It is splitting hairs because, like you said, you can see 8 guys as starters. There may only be 5 guys that actually come to that. But who's to say those other 3 guys weren't drafted into the wrong situation and they just thought they could maybe just fit them into there, but it didn't work out at the end.
Exactly. Well, and on top of it, I've got Bredesen and Hennessy with the same grade, and then 1 point behind him is Simpson. So, it's not like they're far off. And then we've got another guy we haven't even talked about, Jonah Jackson from Ohio State. He's lumped in there. He should be. So, yeah, I don't know. This interior offensive line class is really good. I like them quite a bit. So, I don't know. You want to go one more each, and then we'll call it good? Because I think we could be here literally for hours, you and I.
We probably will, and we probably, after you hit stop recording, we'll probably keep doing it. But that's the fun of it. And heck, we can, if we remember the numbers of what we did this week, we can kind of rekindle it and do it again next week as well when everything's a little more finalized. But I don't think I've asked you, maybe 50th on your board. That's kind of a hot spot. A lot of people like to say top 50 picks. So who's right there on that line?
Well, it's Ezra Cleveland, offensive tackle out of Boise State. He is my 7th-ranked offensive tackle, my 50th-ranked overall player. I really like his overall length from a height-weight perspective at 6'6", 311. I think he's very patient, one of the more patient left tackles in this draft, especially when he's pass blocking. And I think that helps him in a sense. It doesn't allow him to overset, which is something that you'll often see guys going a little bit too fast, and they tend to either false step or just overset overall, and it forces them to miss their key or lose the edge. But he's, a smooth technician. I think he's got solid footwork, relatively good punch. It's pretty consistent and quick. And again, the athletic ability, he blew up the combine. So I think he can operate in space relatively well. I think he needs some just overall refinement from ability to get that hand on the inside of the, his aiming point, get it inside, and his ability to kind of redirect the guy. I think it needs to get better. And we kind of talked about him a little bit before the show, and he was a guy that we both agreed he needs to get stronger. But I think if he doesn't manage himself on one of the tackle spots, I think he's actually better off inside. I think if he's able to be surrounded by help with a offensive tackle and a center, it will actually help him. So I like the thought of him to a team like maybe Green Bay, but maybe bumping inside. So I don't know. I know there's teams being rumored like the Browns being interested in him, which is interesting because his last name's Cleveland. But yeah, I don't know. I like him. 50 overall. I think he's a top 50 pick. He's more, I think, comfortable. I'm more comfortable with him in the early going of round 2.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like he's going to come off the board in round 1, but yes. And it sounds like you do too. And now with those rumors buzzing about Cleveland moving up in the top 20 to get Cleveland, and then who knows? This offensive tackle class, it's after those top 4 guys, it seems like everybody may freak out and they have to go get that second tier of guys or third tier of guys, so to speak. I feel like we're going to see a lot of movement probably inside that top 50, where a lot of these guys are probably going to be a consensus ranked on the draft boards across the NFL.
For sure. Well, let's end it with you, and let's go. I know who your defensive tackle 1 and 2 is. It's got to be Brown or Kinlaw, yep. And in either order. Let's go with DT4 though.
That's going to be one of your favorite players, Neville Gallimore, the Oklahoma defensive tackle. You touched on some of his versatility and alignment versatility. We were talking about Marlon Davidson with that regard before we hit the record button, but Gallimore, he gives you a lot in the interior. He's not going to be this, plush athlete that can sit there consistently 2-gap, but if he turns that motor on, good luck, because that interior is in for a butt whooping, because Gallimore has a lot of power behind his pads. He has a lot of power in his punch, heavy hands, and he's a smart football player. He follows the flow of the play. He can make plays sometimes on the outside, given, that motor like I was talking about, and he has a little bit of that underrated athleticism in his lower half to turn his hips and play upfield. So I really like some of the pass rushing presence that he has in the interior as well. So I don't think he's as scheme dependent compared to some of these other defensive tackles, because he showed the versatility to play anywhere from the 0 tech to a little bit of the 4-eye position, mostly inside at that 3 tech, but he still shows that versatility across the defensive line front and the interior. I think that's extremely valuable, and I'm pretty confident he'll be a top 50 pick. But again, there's a lot of these defensive tackles that I think there's probably just a lot of mixed reviews, not in a negative way, but just a lot of mixed reviews on how NFL teams evaluate them.
I love me some Neville Gallimore. I tried my best this year because I always do this. And I agree on everything that you said with Gallimore, but I do this every year where I fall in love with a guy and then I boost him on my board because my heart just pumps for him. And then I will neglect something because I just love the guy. And I was going to do that with Gallimore. And then I was like, no, let's be honest with the grade. And you're honest with the grade, but then you bump them up a little bit because you're like, oh, I'll give him a little bit more character or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, no, even though I talked to him, everything was great. He was very approachable. He was a great guy. I'm like, no, I love the versatility. He's just it's literally a hair outside of the top 50. So it is splitting hairs with these players. And I hope people that see all these big boards that are dropping and that will see ours in the coming days, I want them to understand that it's you need to understand that it's 1 point, 2 point max between that player and the next player in the position. It's not very far. There's just some slight separation. It could be because of some agility drills. It could be because he's not as versatile or whatever. So, this was a lot of fun. I'm going to be honest. This was a lot of fun. We should definitely do this again. And I think, like we said, we could do this for a solid couple of hours. We could have it an entire week's worth of shows on this. So that was a lot of fun. What do you got that you're working on outside of the big board that's going to be dropping in the coming days?
Yeah, so my big board's going to be a little more, I won't say interactive, but I'm going to kind of have a graphic for the big board, probably a top 50 board. And then I'm working on just having individual graphics to post out for each draft pick, at least on day one of the draft. So hopefully Thursday night, you can start seeing just, I guess, a mini scouting report. It's probably the right phrasing there, and just talk about the draft pick with those top 32 picks. Finalizing the running backs piece. There's some technical inefficiencies there. That was my very political term, but I'm squaring that away right now. And then next week, just working on kind of like a draft notebook, reacting to certain rumors, maybe dropping some player rankings in there as well, just giving some lasting thoughts and some projections in written content form before we pop on the podcast.
It's going to be a lot of fun. You guys, of course, can find CP on Twitter @_Christian Page. He's been putting out tremendous content the last couple of days with this wide receiver, production article that is so detailed, from drops and receptions to offensive linemen with their overall starts, games played, all that good stuff. So check that stuff out, especially if you're big into the numbers. I certainly am. It's important to know how many games a guy has played, how many drops he's had, all that stuff. It's important. So I've got a piece coming out probably in a couple of days with LSU left tackle. How do you say his name? Shattuck?
I think it's Sadiq.
Sadiq. Yeah, Sadiq Charles. I'm so bad at names. Oh, my God. I'm never going to get better. But, I've got that coming out. The big boards are coming. Some mock drafts are going to be coming. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're a week away. So, again, you can find CP on Twitter @_Christian Page, me @Russ NFL Draft. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. It's free content. Why not? Do us a favor. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spreaker, YouTube, all the goods. But until next time, this is Cover 1, the Draft Podcast.